So here we are again. This is Mauro Mondello, and I am going to introduce the last keynote of the 31st Disruption Network Lab conference, Organized Crime, a Global Business, that is held in Berlin. The keynote is Undercover, Combating Organized Crime in Africa. And I'm going to introduce, before to introduce 𝗨𝗻𝗍 Busari, that will be moderating this keynote, I also want to remember that we are going to be in streaming on our website, and that if you would like to post some questions for the Q&A after the keynote, you are very welcome to do it. And I'm going to introduce 𝗨𝗻𝗍 Busari. 𝗨𝗻𝗍 Busari is a CNN international correspondent, producer, senior editor, and writer. She started working for CNN in 2008 in London, and then in 2016, she made history by leading the opening of the first multi-platform digital CNN bureau in the world, and at the same time became the first Nigerian to lead a CNN bureau everywhere worldwide. She is a 𝗖𝗿𝗶𝗺𝗿𝗆 Fellow 2020, and she has been changing a bit the narrative about the way that CNN was, and is still today, talking about Africa, focusing on creative and policymakers and innovators. And this truly led to a change of narrative of Africa, far from stereotypes. She won the 𝗨𝗿𝗶𝗺𝗺𝗃 Award in 2017 for her leading role in the liberation of the schoolgirls that were kidnapped in 2015 by the terrorist group Boko Haram. She won in May 2020, she was listed among the 25 most powerful female journalists in Africa by Women in Journalism Africa. She's a passionate speaker, and she has been speaking at TED Global, Yale University, Oxford, and UNESCO. And I am very glad to introduce her and to leave now to her.
Good evening. Thank you, Mauro, for that introduction. Your check is in the post. So it's my delight to be here to take part in this discussion and to introduce our keynote speaker, who is a very dynamic journalist whose work I followed for many years. And, you know, we're here to talk about this very critical and pressing topic that affects the very fabric of societies across Africa. And today, Aremeyaw Anas, he's told me not to miss out the second Anas. He gets annoyed about that. He will shed light on this great important matter, which is undercover, combating organized crime in Africa. It's not an easy feat, and Africa, with its rich cultural diversity and vast resources, is a continent of immense potential and promise. However, it's a region, like many others, that's plagued with the pervasive threat of organized crime, with criminal enterprises ranging from human trafficking and drug smuggling to corruption and cybercrime, weaving a complex web that threatens the safety and well-being of our communities. And Anas has decided to tackle this head-on, and he's dedicated his career to understanding the nuances of organized crime and, more importantly, combating it. He's not a run-of-the-mill journalist, and he uses his investigative reporting to do some daring feats, such as going undercover in a Bangkok prison, posing as a Catholic priest to see how Africans in Thai prisons are treated. Anas's motto is name, shame, and jail, and he's famous for using his anonymity as a tool in the investigative work that he does. Very few people have seen his real face, and of course tonight you won't be able to see that. I've seen a bit of it, so I have a bit of an upper hand in that. He has won more than 50 international and local awards for his work advocating basic human rights, such as the right to not be held in human slavery, and for his work navigating the shadows to expose the intricacies of criminal networks operating within our communities. And so over the next few minutes, he will guide us through his work fighting against organized crime, Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving Aremeyaw Anas a resounding round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aremeyaw Anas. I am an undercover journalist from Ghana. Some of you may have read about me. I'm not a particularly liked journalist. I'm usually referred to as a controversial journalist because of my style of journalism. I do three major things when I hit to do work. I name, I shame, and I jail. I'm also a lawyer by profession. I was called to the Ghana Bar Association 10 years ago. So when I go undercover, there are key things that I look at when I'm undercover. I get the raw evidence, and I go to the court of law and testify to get the bad guys jailed. Now, I'm not telling you about journalism that I'm about to practice. I'm telling you about journalism that I have done and have seen impeccable results. So you cast your mind back, you look at the Chinese sex mafia. The people were jailed 45 years. You look back at 𝗀𝗃𝗺 𝗔𝗿𝗃𝗺𝗺, a man who raped girls as young as 3. He was jailed 8 years. You look at the cocoa smuggling story in Ghana. The people were jailed 16 years. And many, many other stories. 𝗷𝗿𝗴𝗵𝗺 8 years. But hey, it is very easy for people to critique my type of journalism. But look, I am a product of my society. And the journalism I produce is the exact journalism that is required for my kind of society. Look, I have no qualms with people who go on sermonizing and fantasizing and trying to define journalism. I have always said there's no point in doing journalism if it doesn't benefit your society. I have been called that journalist who does not respect the rules and laws of journalism because of a very simple reason. Because people think that they have to define journalism in a certain way, and people like us ought to follow that definition. But what is the point in doing journalism if it doesn't benefit your society, or better still, my society? So I define journalism by looking at my grandmother in the village. So in as much as I can understand the circumstances, the issues that people raise, but why would I testify in a court of law? Look, whereas Europe, America, talk of Canada, talk of UK, have developed a pretty robust democracy, Africa is right here. We are 50, 60 years, and we are still climbing the ladder of democracy. I call our kind of democracy mushrooming democracy. So yes, institutions are not developed like how institutions in Europe and the Americas are developed. So I don't see anything wrong at all when I collect evidence and move halfway to join law enforcement agencies for the bad guys to be arrested and prosecuted. How else were you expecting me to do my journalism when institutions in Africa are still growing, where there is a lot of corruption, where journalists are shot day afternoon, and night. I don't believe in exclusivity. I believe in effective journalism. I believe in that kind of journalism that makes my grandma in the village happy. That kind of developmental journalism that moves society forward. So I see nothing wrong at all with taking one step forward to meet the law enforcement agencies. So when I say I'm undercover, it means that I have gone with a hidden camera. I have collected the evidence. I have studied the evidence. I have seen the crime. I have called the police. I have liaised with them. When I'm breaking the story, we have arrested the people who were involved in the crime. And, of course, I stand in the court of law and I testify to ensure that these people are jailed. Simple. You may not be happy, but it works. It's worked and it will continue to work. Now, I'm going to take you through a journey of some of my stories. And we will all be able to analyze and place all of you in my position that if you were me, what were you going to do? So I'll call my brother Nicholas to roll, and then we'll discuss the stories. Nick? Yeah. Nick, roll the video, please.
This is not a story of my life. It is a story of my society, driven by the need for social change.
Anas is a big name in our country.
As an undercover journalist, my job is about results. It is about fostering development, but the stakes are always high.
The night of the 12th of last month, the rebels did attack Karu, burnt down some houses, looted others, and captured the chief of the village and several of his people on suspicion that they were trafficking in arms. The Crown Prince of Bole informed the crusading guide reporter Aremeyaw, and the two traveled to Côte d'Ivoire with the journalist disguised as a prince from an imaginary kingdom.
My kind of journalism is very risky. It comes with all the traps and threats.
Every second counts. As I decide to take the risk, any miscalculation can lead to fatal consequences. There are lives involved. It is classified and sensitive. It can be deadly, but important. It is often in the interest of the state. It is never a solo mission.
I don't do this work alone. I do it with a team.
I collaborate with civil society, foreign counterparts,
We meet an undercover Ghanaian journalist,
state institutions, and other security agencies. Together, we name, shame, and jail the bad guys in the society. I don't try to be all things to all people. I only try to give everything for the good of my society. My name is Aremeyaw. My methods may not be comfortable to the bad guys, but extreme diseases call for extreme remedies. If you are a bad guy, I am about to knock on your door, and I can tell you it is not nice.
Courageous journalists like Anas, who risked his life to report the truth.
Take a spark, just a spark, and I think Anas has provided that spark for the whole edifice to blow up, for people to wake up and say, no more. Something has to be done.
So it's not been an easy journey. As we roll the next few clips, I'm going to invite you into my world. And I want you to ask that rhetorical question, that if you were me, and you were in that part of Africa, and you were faced with the diseases, the poverty, the human rights abuses, what were you going to do? Were you going to fold your arms and hide under some laws and say you are not going to protect your people? Let's see how the slides go. Go ahead, Nicholas. I was in the psychiatric hospital as a patient, and what I saw was not nice. I'm sorry. Some of the images will hurt sensitivities here, but I'm here to tell you the truth. So here I filmed human rights abuses that all these people were going through. I came into contact with a group that was selling cocaine to these patients. I filmed this, and the evidence was brought. Again, I collaborated with the police for the bad guys to be arrested, and they were jailed. Enemies of the nation.
I'm saying, my brothers and sisters, this is the time for introspection.
You see that some image or an image in front of me counting money. You didn't see the money was being given to me, but the next moment you see the money in my hands counting.
Wow, you say you go fist fire for
that. These vehicles, before they...
So, what you just saw, that was my late president, President Jonathan Mills. He had tasked the state security agencies to ensure that cocoa, which is the major export product in Ghana, should not be stolen. He had tasked the security agencies to go in there and ensure that people smuggling Ghana's cocoa outside the country are arrested. But what did the security agencies do? They connived and rather assisted the people to stab the nation in the back. So me and my team got on the field. We filmed these horrifying things happening. We went to Temahabo, the main port of Ghana. We filmed these horrifying things. We published, and we went to court, and they were jailed 16 years. Please proceed.
Leave the harbor must be inspected. If you don't want to be delayed, you have to follow tradition. This man is very careful. He is head of the Tiger Eye team.
Spirit children. So, you know, when children are born with deformities in our society, the spirit children phenomenon is when a child who is born with some level of mental illness or has some disability, the parents decide that they will kill the child. So it's child infanticide. These children are fed with some concoctions and are killed in some evil forest. When I heard this, I was worried because I also come from the northern part of Ghana. I could be a victim of such killings. So then again, I went undercover with my evidence. We built a prosthetic baby from London. And this prosthetic baby was taken to a so-called soothsayer, somebody who says that I look at the baby and I'll be able to tell the fortunes. So part of the work is to challenge superstition in our society, to challenge the beliefs and educate people so that they can understand that some of the old practices that we engage in that leads to the death of babies are unacceptable. So guess what? I took the prosthetic baby and I gave it to the soothsayer. And after some incantations, he said the child that we all know was a prosthetic baby, was evil. And that the child was sent into the earth to create problems in the society. How is this even possible in this modern age? So part of our work as journalists is to challenge the status quo, to tell our people that, hey, you may have been practicing this for so many years, but it does not inure to the benefits of society. Please proceed.
Some West African communities have branded children born deformed or with disabilities as evil spirits. In 3 weeks of investigation, I've already met 14 individuals who admitted they'd killed spirit children before. 10 of these said they were willing to poison my child. This is the soothsayer shrine. As dawn breaks the next morning, the police arrive and pack a safe distance from the house. It's time to bring in our dummy child and place it on a makeshift bed in the secret camera room, while the area crime officer and his 2 remaining colleagues sit in the monitoring room. From here, they will keep patient vigil and be ready to move in. We make our way into the bedroom where they demand I hand over the child. They still don't know it's a replica.
Then let's move.
So yes, you saw the police, we arrested them. Now I know some of you are still having, but why should the police? How else were you expecting me to do? Leave them to still be killing the babies? The spell of the albino, northern Tanzania, where the limbs of albinos are cut by people in society, human beings like us, and in the name of some wealth that some people want to get, some superstition, they chop the bodies of these human beings and sell. So I flew into Tanzania. My job was simple: record the hardcore evidence, so that for the first time, all those people who were hiding under superstition and killing these albino children had to be exposed. Please join me. Let's watch what happened.
Since 2008, Tanzania counted 62 albinos who were killed, 16 who had limbs amputated, and the bodies of 12 albinos were exhumed.
Chukua viungo, vidole vitatu.
I'm sorry, but I'm here to tell you the truth. Go ahead.
How will I feel? It's horrible. It's horrible. I have never imagined that this is where we have reached. Just 16-year-old girl? No.
It's the start of our undercover investigation, and it's time to get involved myself. 𝗖𝗍𝗺 gives me the contact of a witch doctor who is suspected of being involved in the albino trade. I pose as a customer who wants to become rich. He continues for half an hour talking about curses, black magic, and the need of special medicine to boost my luck and success. That's it. It's time to scare him with my arm.
Tell him I brought him a present. You should take this. Take it. He says what? Sorry for what?
We go him. Yes, good.
Food for thought. See, the World Food Program has a very simple style of getting into countries. They want to feed malnourished children, women who are pregnant and lack the necessary nutrients. The World Food Program decides that we will buy food and feed these kids. You are expecting me not to go undercover? I should allow the food of these little children to be stolen in the name of something that they call exclusivity? And please, don't get me wrong. I'm a lawyer. And when I do go undercover, I know the exact evidence that I need to allow prosecution. Undercover must always be a last resort. And it must always be in the public interest. And I work guided by the BBC Ofcom rules. The Ofcom rules are strict. If I'm lawless, how do I end up working for Al Jazeera, BBC, and other international media? My journalism may not be sweet in your ears, but it gives results, and it gives concrete results. Please proceed.
International aid agencies donate millions of dollars of food aid to Ghana every year. It's meant to keep malnourished children alive.
The people who are stealing and selling this food are the very ones whose job it is to make sure hungry children get enough to eat. A man in one of the major towns in the north, Navrongo, was selling boxes of donated food. Inside his house, a huge supply of food aid ready for sale. It was time to bring in the police. Out of those arrested, only the nutrition officer was ultimately charged. The others were helpers and didn't know the goods had been stolen.
Justice. See, judges are the gods in the guise of men in our society. Without the judiciary, no country can function. So if you find your judiciary tilting the scale of justice on behalf of one person or the other, then there is a problem. I was undercover. 34 judges, over 100 judicial staff were caught taking bribes. Look, I have argued that most of the wars that occur in Africa are as a result of poor judicial systems. Because if that man wins election and he comes to court hoping that you, the judge, you put it right and you refuse to do so, that is the genesis of the war. And if the Hutu and the Tutsi are looking for justice, and you, the one in charge of it, being at the helm of those things, do not ensure that that justice is there, there will be war. That is why the judiciary plays a key role. 2 years I was undercover with my team. This was a big investigation. It came with a lot of difficulties. The country, Ghana's foundation, was shaken because the judiciary is an arm of government. It didn't come easy. Eventually, all or most of the judicial staff were sacked, and the judges were sacked too. Now, there are people who would label my journalism as an unfair kind of journalism. But I can tell you that the journalism I do affords you the opportunity to explain your side of the story. So I have caught you taking money. A judicial panel is established. You bring your lawyers. I come alone. I say, you did this on this day, you collected the money, you did this and did that. It's up to your lawyers to disprove my evidence. So, let nobody think here that it's just one piece of journalism that you just throw out there and then you remove people out of office. It's a fair world. Everybody deserves to have a chance in the court of law to argue. So yes, when you hear that over 100 staff and 34 judges have been fired, we didn't fire them out of the vacuum. We fired them based on law. They were given opportunities. They came to court. In this thing, I had over 66 legal suits. Guess what? I lost none. I won all. Because the evidence is hardcore, is strong, and you see an impact coming as a result of the evidence. Please roll.
This
This is the story of the biggest undercover sting in the history of Africa and the extraordinary man who carried it off. Al Jazeera has been recording what happened.
At the end of the investigation, 34 judges.
In Tamale, northern Ghana, Anasism investigators went to see if they could influence the outcome of a rape case. It was an appeal hearing.
This is 𝗖𝗍𝗺𝗺. 𝗖𝗍𝗺𝗺 is a well-respected High Court judge.
The judge is anxious nobody should know that he accepted the cash.
I beg you, let's have a way in this.
Thousands of people have been given free tickets to see the undercover epic.
This is Justice 𝗍𝗲𝗺. He's one of the judges who have really tormented me in this investigation. He's filed many, many suits. This is Mayor. He actually said that normally it's 10,000 plus when you're dealing with the likes of Justice 𝗍𝗲𝗺 because he's a big judge.
Newly qualified graduates are called to the bar in Ghana. This is a joyful occasion, but Anas's expose has also cast a major cloud over the proceedings.
Sometimes it takes a spark, just a spark. And I think Anas has provided that spark for people to wake up and say, no more. Something has to be done.
Betraying the game. One evening, I set out with my colleague reporters. And by the end of the day, there was no good news. A colleague of mine, 𝗢𝗿𝗀𝗺𝗏, was shot 3 times in the heart and twice in the neck. That is the price we pay for telling the stories that we have to tell. A few weeks ago, me and my colleagues were in Cameroon. Our colleague Martinez Zogo was shot dead in broad daylight. 𝗔𝗍𝗀 of Nigeria is an example. Norbert Zongo was given a parcel. It was an explosive. He collected it and he was bombed away. That is the price we pay for the journalism we do. And that is why, when I set out and I don't get results, I am not satisfied. And that is why I will collaborate with state institutions to arrest the bad guys. I do not possess powers of arrest. I can do all the beautiful journalism in the world. But at the end of the day, it is only the state that has that mandate to arrest and prosecute. So if you find me collaborating with the police, it is not because I love it. It is because I want to see change in society. It is because when I set out to do a story, I have a mission. And the mission is to minimize that problem in my society. I don't want to finish my piece of journalism and walk on the same street with those same criminals. Hell no. Institutions here may quickly jump to assist. But here is, we all know the problems with our state security agencies. Talk of the police, talk of the national security, talk of the immigration. They are poorly funded. Of course, journalists are poorly funded too. So there is nothing wrong with taking one step forward and assisting each other to ensure that there is sanity in the world, to ensure that there is sanity in our communities so that we can breathe. So you see, when I'm talking and I'm traveling and my colleagues are critiquing me, no, it is wrong, don't be with the police, I laugh. Do you live with me in my society? Do you know what I see every day? Do you know what I go through? Who else were you expecting to solve the problems in my society? Should I be sitting home expecting that a journalist will fly from America or fly from Berlin to come and solve my problem? Hell no. It is my problem. It's my societal problem. And so I have to devise, and I know the best means of solving that problem. So yes, I understand. You can sermonize. You can theorize about the principles of how to do journalism. But I tell you, at the end of the day, journalism is about the people. It's about my people. So if people in the West are satisfied and they think that you shouldn't collaborate with police, that's fine. But my people are not. And I am working because of my people. So yes, I can understand. But that is the position I come from. I cannot do that piece of journalism and go back to my grandmother, and that same problem will still exist. No. Please proceed.
For 2 years, he's been unlocking the secrets of African football.
And we told him it was a gift from the supporters of Hearts of Oak.
𝗀𝗀 appears distracted by his phone, but eventually takes the money.
And again.
Football. Beautiful game. When people go to their farms and go and do all sorts of things, they come home to relax to the game of football. It is the hope of the masses. Ghana is a football country, except that we've been beaten several times by Germany. But we will come back. The point is that when people have hope, and at the end of the day, people carry corruption onto the field, where people can buy yellow cards, people can buy red cards, people can buy goals, people can go into sports betting, then there is a problem. But this is what got me into football. One day, there was a major disaster in Ghana, where over 120 people died as a result of stampede in the field. Why did the stampede happen? Because there was a penalty, and the referee whistled for that penalty. But a lot of people thought it was no penalty. So they started rushing on the field, which led to a stampede and people died. So for me, in analyzing that story, my point was that if there was no poor officiating, the people wouldn't have died. So I'm not about to underestimate petty crime on the field of football. So I set out Ghana Football Association, Confederation of African Football, CAF, and of course, the world governing body, FIFA. I decided to put all this on the banner and scrutinize. The president of the Ghana Football Association, Mr. 𝗀ิ𝗀𝗃𝗺, who was heading Ghana, who was an executive member of FIFA, was caught in the scandal. What was he doing? He was taking bribes, fat money, to get his pocket rich. He was dabbling into things that football administrators should not dabble in. But the fascinating part was, for me, the referees, where I could go, negotiate with a referee, and buy goals. I could sit with a referee and say, okay, so can I have some 2 yellow cards and then maybe 3 red cards in this game? You just pay for it and you go. I needed to sanitize the game of football. I needed to return football where it's supposed to be. That is what took me undercover. And I can tell you, this did not come easy. It was a very difficult story. I came face to face with the mafia in football. When the story broke, of course, in line with my name, shame, and jail, we reported to FIFA. 𝗀ิ𝗀𝗃𝗺 was hauled before the arbitration committee of FIFA. My lawyers got ready. We argued. Like I say, it's a matter of the rule of law. You don't just accuse somebody. 𝗀ി𝗀𝗃𝗺 lost at FIFA. He was fined 500,000 francs, and he was banned from football for life. This is what I call results. This is what I call impact. 𝗀ิ𝗀𝗃𝗺 didn't stop there. He filed a report against me at CAS. I sent my lawyers to CAS. We fought it and we won. So it is not a tea party. Please proceed.
It's a penalty. Ahmed Adams, Samuel Suka, whistles for penalty. No, I don't think it was a penalty.
On show, top players and top referees, all members of FIFA's senior ranks. 𝗔𝗍𝗿, the man they'd last met at a petrol station with a fistful of their cash.
He doubled as a link between us and the referees. We told these referees that we just wanted to be their friends. Then when we meet them, we can ask them to help us.
So I'll know you now.
A role model to many youngsters, 𝗲𝗻 has been preparing to represent his country at the World Cup in Russia.
Referee 𝗲𝗻 was at the World Cup. I removed him from the World Cup because of corruption. Proceed.
Referee 𝗲𝗻 is offered $600 and takes it. This is the president of the Ghana Football Association, the number 2 in African football, and one of the elite in FIFA.
So it was a sting operation. How did I get 𝗀𝗀 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃? He's fairly a rich man. So I went undercover as a sheikh in Dubai. It was a very nice occasion. I got a lavish room. I had a few Arabs that we had hired who were giving me all the accolades of a king and a sheikh. I sat down majestically and I told him I wanted to sponsor Ghana football. And he mentioned the amount of $15 million, but was very clear with me that he deserves to get a cut from the $15 million. Please proceed with the video.
𝗀𝗀 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃. Anas's team gave 𝗀𝗃𝗃 first-class travel and a luxury hotel in the Middle East, with the promise of meeting a wealthy businessman with royal connections.
Thank you very much. We were very clear to 𝗀𝗀 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃 that the money we were giving to him was a gift. The laws are very clear. You cannot take a gift.
And the school money.
By Malawi's Human Harvest, getting to my end. So, see, when society begins to deteriorate, people indulge in all sorts of unthinkable things. So in Malawi, they were harvesting humans for some rituals. I felt very uncomfortable about it. So I set out to do this investigation. But it didn't come easy because I was nearly killed together with my team. In that investigation, we got the killers. They promised to give us some human limbs and heads. We went and met them at a corner, not knowing that they had taken us to a place where they usually kill and bury these dead bodies. And the community around had noticed that there were people who, they find dead bodies there. So they had also made up their mind that if they find anybody there, they were going to kill the person. So in the melee, whilst we were buying the body parts, then the people started hearing noise. So they ran away, they disappeared into the forest. And within a twinkle of an eye, over 400 people had come surrounding us. There was no explanation we didn't give. We are from the BBC, we do. They say, no, you are not. You came to kill people. And that's what I keep saying. If we all sit in our corners and we say, oh, there's a problem happening in Zimbabwe, I don't care. There's a problem happening here, I don't care. You never know when you end up in that problem. So whilst we were there, the people insisted that they were going to kill us. It was a very close shave. I'm glad I'm here and I'm talking to you. Please proceed with the video.
Malawi's Human Harvest. With me in the vehicle is local journalist Henry Muhangu. He's been covering a wave of unsolved killings. The headless body that was found on the riverbank. It's a very sad sight. And now it's time to go undercover. Matthias Kamanga. He is a notorious local witch doctor who whose sources told us is involved in body parts muthi. We are moving into dangerous territory.
Okay, then let's leave here.
There was a small, good-humored crowd gathered at our vehicles.
You shouldn't be scared, did you? Feel free.
But as Kamanga and Impata melt into the darkness, the mood turned ugly. Really ugly.
The crowd was becoming huge now. They started attacking them too. They used their bodies as human shields. Someone drive a knife, cut through my suit. When we got into the valley, they were going to end our lives.
Which Dr. Kamanga and his associate Njuku Mpata claimed that between them, they killed 12 people. We have no way of knowing if their claims are true. They gave us the names of 6 victims. Henry later investigated and discovered of the 6, 3 were alive. 1 was confirmed dead and 2 were missing.
Documentary coming up entitled Galamsey Economy.
We've been speaking about these things, but the first question we are always asked is, where is your evidence?
President 𝗂 terminated.
So, my Minister of State, a minister who have been appointed to take care of our kitty, was in Dubai taking bribes. An investor, which was me, and I wanted to invest in my own country. I wanted to pump in $500 million. And here's what happened. He charged 20% of the $500 million. And when I insisted that I wanted to meet the vice president, who is the head of business in my country, he said I have to pay $200,000 appearance fee. Now, how do you develop if ministers who have been appointed to ensure that they guard the kitty of the state are the ones pilfering the state? Again, I ask you all, if I had not gone undercover, how else were you expecting me to get the evidence of the criminality that is being perpetrated in that part of the country? Please proceed.
The appointment of the Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, 𝗪𝗪 𝗔𝗂, with immediate effect.
These illegal miners have been mining on our concession and in water bodies.
Long before we got into this economic mess, tongues had been wagging on issues of scratch my back and I scratch yours, and conflict of interest issues at the Ministry of Finance regarding Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and his former company Databank, as well as 𝗪𝗪 𝗔𝗂 as Minister of State, formerly of Black Star brokerage 𝗪𝗪, decided to investigate, and this is what we found. We met with several people who promised to help. They included businessmen, so-called fixers, and state minister, who's not only a public servant betraying public trust, but a top keeper of Ghana's purse, 𝗪𝗪 𝗔𝗂, then the Deputy Minister for Finance. He spoke about how the Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will be key to the plan at the operational level, and how it is important for us to know him.
You know, I was just saying to them, I have to introduce you to the Vice President. Sure. The Vice President is a very good man.
𝗔𝗂 admitted that the cash gift would do a lot of shopping and then proceeded to gather it into a polythene bag.
We'll do a lot of shopping. Should I put it in a bag? Yeah.
It's been months since we concluded this investigation. Looking at where our economy currently is, we ask ourselves if government, through the questionable conduct of some of its officials, is to blame for its own woes. Maybe it is time to stop blaming external factors and begin to look within.
The MP, belonging to Ghana's ruling party, called for Anas to be hanged just days before.
Anas, evidence I have about him. He has to be hanged.
A Ghanaian undercover journalist has been shot dead. 𝗷𝗿𝗆𝗺𝗃 was a member of 𝗖𝗿𝗶𝗺𝗺 private investigations. He was driving home in the capital, Accra, when reports say men on motorbikes shot him 3 times.
He was instrumental in a wide-reaching expose into corruption in Ghana football, about which the BBC Africa Eye program made a documentary.
Ladies and gentlemen, the kind of journalism I do is not a tea party. It's a very difficult type of journalism. But I do it because of the conviction that I have, the belief I have in the potency of my kind of journalism. Like I have said, it produces results. See, the community and society I live in has what I will call problems. They have diseases. In fact, the diseases we have in our communities are extreme diseases. And I have always said, extreme remedies are the most appropriate for extreme diseases. And I have chosen to belong to the remedy. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think we need another round of applause. So we're going to spend about 25 minutes just kind of digesting and finding out more about this extraordinary work, this body of work that Anas has presented. And I know some of you will be dying to ask some questions, so we'll leave some room for that. Anas, incredible stuff. And I've followed your work for years, but seeing it presented in that kind of very, in that format is just really impressive. But, we ended on a very sad note, and it really brings to reality the dangers of the work that you do. Can you talk to us about some of the challenges you faced? I mean, you haven't always worn your face covering. Talk us through some of those challenges and what led to you kind of disguising in this way. Yes.
Well, I think that when it comes to dangers, I've always argued that it's a hazard of the profession. I mean, journalism is like working in a hot kitchen. If you don't have the energy to stand the heat, you get out. It is not for the faint-hearted. You don't expect that you will be putting people in jail and they will not come at you. In fact, I'm so used to death threats and people trying to shoot you and people, I'm so used to it that if I did any story and I didn't get a reaction of people want to attack, it feels like maybe you didn't even do the story well. But I am saying that if you live in my part of the world, you cannot separate the hazards of the profession from the profession. They are intertwined. You just have to do the best you can to ensure that you are safe. And yes, I wear the beads because of anonymity, so that I can't be able to tell a story again tomorrow. I can be able to tell a story next year without people necessarily knowing. So the anonymity you see here has always been my secret weapon. Thank you.
So, I mean, some people would argue that your methods are really unorthodox, like going undercover in a mental hospital, for example. Is that a deliberate kind of function of what you do? Do you, I mean, some may say it's kind of like presenting shock value, a bit tabloid. What do you say to that?
Well, like I said, I always talk from the legal perspective. Undercover must always be a last resort. And anybody who is familiar with international media, before you would even be okayed to go undercover, you need to be able to gather what we call the prima facie evidence. It is after you have gathered the prima facie evidence, and in looking at what is prima facie, we ought to be able to know that whatever investigation you are doing is in the public interest, and that there is no other way that a conventional camera can bring that evidence to bear, but the only way is going undercover. It is only when this is satisfied that I can go undercover like you saw. So going undercover is not fishing. It's not like selling tomatoes. You just pick your camera and you are going undercover. No. It is a lot of hard work, a lot of piecing information together in a sensible manner before you are okayed to go undercover. So as you see the films you are seeing are not made up of only undercover shots. They are made up of conventional shots, interviews, and others. So undercover is only an ingredient that spices the soup. It is not an end to it. It's not everything. And if you do undercover and you don't have the complementary roles of other forms of journalism, it can never stand alone. So yes, I can understand those who critique it, but I can also assure you that the ethics of it is properly under searchlight. When we are going undercover, we make sure that the rules that are available are properly followed. Thank you.
So talk us through the process. I mean, do people kind of send you tips? You get whistleblowers, and how do you decide what to investigate?
The key thing we look at before we pick an issue to investigate is how does it affect people? And sometimes it's unfortunate. An issue may be very important to you here, but numbers play a very important role. What's the scope? How many people is it affecting? If you don't do it, what are the results of not doing it? Of course, we also look at the financial outlay of the story, whether we have the capacity to be able to put in the needed money that we need to put in. We also know that there are some high-class society thieves who can only be gotten in a powerful investigation unless your numbers are high. So we don't restrict our journalism to those who take $100 and $50 and $20. We ask ourselves that question. What about that one who signs one check and it's 10 million and it's 20 million? That's how come you saw what you saw. Thank you.
Let's talk about some of the work that you've done and which ones have kind of stayed with you, if you like, that there have been the really impactful ones. I mean, clearly they've had a lot of impact and, are very significant. But is there one in particular that you always remember or that still stays with you to this day?
I'm very reluctant to talk about what moves me, but I can tell you that the film that I have seen, which is likely to be released on the BBC in January, shocked me. And I can tell you, get ready for a shocker on the BBC Africa Eye. Thank you.
So is that something that will be seen globally, or
It will go globally. It will play on the World Service. It will play on BBC Africa Eye. But even me, when I saw the film and I got to the middle, I got out and I went away because the scenes are gory. People can be evil. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to press you a little bit on that. You can't leave us hanging like this. Can you tell us what about it that moved you so much, without giving too much away? What is it about this film coming up?
I see some friends here, and I know you don't want me to lose my job. If I dare say a word here about it, the next email I'll get, I'm fired. So please, get yourself ready. Sit tight and monitor BBC Africa Eye in January. It will be a shocker. Thank you.
Okay, I'm monitoring from now. I don't know about you guys, but I'm on the edge of my seat. So, Anas, what do you think is the state of investigative journalism on the continent in Africa? I mean, so many ills. Our leaders are so powerful. Our institutions are so weakened by the kind of power that leaders have. You know, what do you think about the state? There's not many people like you who are doing this work. What do you think about the state on the continent?
Sometimes people have this feeling that nothing is happening. I don't think so. I think we are being impactful. I think that we have pushed the frontiers of our democracy over the years. I lived in Ghana, and I've been to most countries in Africa. I've worked there. And it might be a slow growth in your eyes, but there is some growth. So, despite all the difficulties on the continent, we must build people. We must build both people and institutions. If we will not do the work, who else will do it for us? Just look at history. America was built by Americans. Germans built German. Let's not sit on the African continent and assume that it's going to take someone to come push the frontiers of our democracy. And hey, let me go to issues of danger. We are not the first to face danger. People died before us because they were pushing the frontiers of our democracy. And if we decide today that we will not ensure to continue that fight that was started long ago, posterity will not forgive us. We do this not for ourselves today, but we do this for generations yet unborn. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. I mean, the work that we do now is for the history books. We chronicle. That's what we do as journalists. Are you afraid to die in the course of what you do?
Fear. I was purged of fear long ago. And, I mean, I'm a Muslim. I believe that if you die, you are dead and gone, and that it is Allah's will that you should die. And if there is anything I hate, I don't want to die a coward. I want to die fighting for the right things in society. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So let's talk about something that I hear a lot in the course of my job is about how external forces, i.e. Western forces, are complicit in keeping Africa down, are complicit in kind of holding up corrupt institutions and perpetuating some of that corruption. What's your view on that?
So I did a film called How to Rob Africa. And it's about tax haven and the fact that African leaders are able to stash their money in offshore accounts. So these are legitimate questions that people have to ask. You can't, in one hand, be preaching anti-money laundering laws and be preaching tenets of democracy and still open your gates for people to launder money stolen from the poor. So it's a chicken and egg matter. It's a very painful story. But I still believe that it is up to us as a people in Africa to fight. And every institution thinks about, or every individual thinks about his personal survival first. So some people would say, well, I don't care if you have money and you want to cheat your people and you bring it in. I don't care about that. But what are we doing to prevent them from stealing the money so that they can't even take it there? That, I think, is the issue. I don't believe in blaming other people for our woes. I believe that we should face our leaders through direct and frontal attack, not obliquely or half-heartedly. Thank you.
So it's a valid point, but, you know, when citizens have tried to face their leaders, they've faced direct pushback. They face violence. You know, you and I both are aware of a story from 2020 where young people in Nigeria were leading a protest against police brutality. And they were protesting and the Nigerian army shot directly at the protesters. It's not always easy for Africans to face their leaders, to criticize their leaders. You know.
Yes, correct. We had moments where there were no democracies at all. We've moved away from that. We've had times where there was one-party state. We moved away from that. We have multi-party. That's some growth. We have stages where we couldn't demonstrate at all. Today we can demonstrate. Of course, a few people will be shot dead, yeah. But we are demonstrating. So it's a gradual process. The lucky thing we have in all this is that we have our terms. And so you can continue killing us. But when it comes to the day of voting, we shall show you with this. Thank you.
Okay. So I think I'm going to open up the question to the audience. Do we have any questions? Okay, we have one here. We have one at the back. Does someone have a mic? Thank you. So the gentleman here. So we'll take two or three questions and then we'll...
Thank you, Anas. Amazing stuff, very inspiring. I actually have a lot of questions, but I'm going to ask two, one very practical. First of all is, when you pay these huge amounts of money as bribe, where do you get the money? And second of all, do you sometimes feel like maybe the Ghanaian law enforcement officers may use you as a good publicity for the government, because they might appear, hey, look, we busted these guys, they bust the guys, but maybe it's just a picture. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, where do you get the money? So we are a media house, and we have views, we have clicks, we have radio stations that we go into some form of alliance with. So before we start any investigation, there's a budget. And that budget is what goes into the film. So yes, that's how we get the money. We don't get it every day. I wish we could get more to do what we do, but we try. And we wish we will not be paying more, but sometimes you just have to pay more to get it. Now the police. Yes, it's a decision you have to make. I have been the #1 critic of the Ghana police. I've done stories where many of them have been sacked and all that. But at the same time, I am able to sense when I need them to help to push the national agenda. So I try to separate people's parochial interests from doing what is right. For me, a crime is a crime. And I will fight that crime. Whatever way the police service want to use to tell their story, that's for them. But at the end of the day, have I managed to minimize that crime? Have I managed to take the person to court? Have I managed to sentence the person? Those are important things for me. And if I can take pride in that work, and the police can take pride in that, it's okay. Society moves on well. But I also do know that the police are not your friends. They are not at all, because they are a part of the system, and they can be used against you too. Thank you.
Really? So do you get the money back, by the way, from those people that you give the money to?
Well, it depends. There's been certain occasions that the money has been used as exhibits, and the people who use it as exhibits kept it as exhibits.
Permanent exhibits?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? We have two at the back there.
Dear Anas, thank you for your beautiful work. I assume when you go undercover, you naturally cannot hide your face like this. That would be a bit suspicious. So you must be going, exposing your face to people that could potentially leak it into the public. How you go about and collaborating with people that maybe know your face? How do you go about preventing this from happening? Thank you.
So, there are many ways of going undercover. And sometimes, like you saw in the 𝗖𝗍𝗃 videos, prosthetics are used. Sometimes makeup. Other times your real face. But today, technology has said that you can do a lot to yourself and change. You can change into a woman, you can change into an old man, you can change into a young man, you can do everything if you have the right people around you. And it's unfortunate I can't disclose everything here, but I can assure you that we have a very solid team that is in charge of that, based in London, and we're able to pull through whenever those difficulties arise. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take some online questions.
So maybe we can follow up with the question about the police, and maybe you can develop a bit more about how your work, as you work a lot with the police in your incredible investigations, does this prevent you by investigate about police corruption?
No, it doesn't. I mean, if you look at the history of Ghana, I did solid police investigations where policemen and security officers were jailed. I've done investigations into the MTTU of the Ghana police. I've done a lot of investigation into bribery of the police. So it doesn't prevent me from taking the police on. I mean, we've got to do what we've got to do. If there's crime, there's crime. Like I said, I cannot possess powers of arrest. They do have it. And if you call on them, I haven't seen any Inspector General of Police who has frowned on collaborating with me to arrest people, because their fundamental duty is to keep peace in society. And most of the times, the police, the real policemen who do proper policing, are not comfortable when there's crime in society. So no matter the hatred you have for them or they have for you, when it comes to fighting crime, they will liaise with you. I haven't seen any police regime in Ghana or in Nigeria or anywhere where they've pushed back at attempts of collaborating with them to arrest some other people. It may be tricky. If the thing leads to arresting one of them, it may. I haven't tried that. But usually, if it's external, they are happy to come on board. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is a question for both. Stephanie and Anas. What about the state of young investigative journalism in Ghana and Nigeria? Do you feel new generations feel the importance of the role of journalism in exposing corruption and the risks involved?
I'll let Anas answer that, because you do extensive work actually in training young journalists. So tell us about that work.
Sure, we offer some trainings in Ghana and Nigeria. In Nigeria, we are supported by the MacArthur Foundation, and we do what we call Nigeria Investigate. And through this, we have trained a lot of Nigerian journalists to give them that power and that strength to be the Anasis in their various communities. And I think that is the whole thing about journalism. Training the incoming generation, giving them the capacity, making them fearless to face state institutions and to tell stories without embellishing or without tilting the story in favor of anybody. We've been doing this for years and we are proud of it and we'll continue to do it. Thank you.
You have a question? Okay, Tatiana.
Thank you very much for this presentation. It's really important also for us at the Disruption Lab to have you. And often we also work here with whistleblowers, and what I learn in being close to them is that the personal story is always the most important that drives a person to bring along also an act of courage. So I wanted to ask you, what was your personal story of starting to do this? Because I believe you need to have courage all the time, and also you work with a team that I suppose also need to be very close to you and trust you. So how did all start for you?
Well, I have grown in journalism organically. So I have seen it all. I've seen the fire. I've seen colleagues being shot dead. And I've also seen that it's a very serious psychological warfare on a team when one gets killed. One of the things that I've also realized is that sometimes journalists, as we are, when the danger is facing us, usually the whistleblowers who helped us do the story face 200% of the danger that we face. But we don't tend to throw such light on that. So with all these experiences, I did set up an organization called the Whistleblowers and Journalists Safety International, which is a shelter in Ghana where whistleblowers and journalists across the continent who face problems, I house them. We provide psychological care, we provide legal services, and then we get therapists to talk to them. And since we started having this shelter, it's gone a long way to assist colleagues who are facing various difficulties in their various countries. So I can understand your question. It doesn't come easy. But I believe that with time, whichever way we can help to support our colleagues to keep having the energy that they deserve to have, we will do it. Thank you very much.
I think it's also important to highlight that being an investigative journalist in Africa is particularly tough just because of the extra challenges. Many journalists are not paid a regular salary, for example, and many of them do not have the training that they need to go into the field, to go and do the important work. Some people see journalism and PR as kind of mutually exclusive. So it's the challenge that I find in finding a next generation of young journalists who want to do this work is they don't see the value in investigative journalism. I don't know if you find that, Anas, in your recruitment, but some of them want to be famous on social media and things like that, but doing the nitty-gritty of the work is quite is quite difficult and a little bit out of fashion for some of them. So it seems to be a dying trade. I don't know if you agree with that to some extent, Anas.
I certainly do agree with you. It's becoming difficult and more difficult to get people to have that level of dedication. People think that it's about showmanship, come and show this and show that, but it's actually not. But in as much as the difficulties stare us in the face, we are happy that the likes of MacArthur and other organizations who help in organizing this workshop and also giving us the opportunity to meet other journalists on the continent, to speak to them and to let them know that the era of parachute journalism are over. You cannot sit somewhere and expect a BBC journalist to fly into your country and be able to tell the story as accurate as you know it. So if the story is going to be told well, it must be you. So I can understand perfectly that those challenges are becoming stronger and stronger. But we hope that we shall also be able to push back and get more people interested. And I think also we must not leave our journalism to remain old-fashioned. Journalism must be dynamic. And that's where the old school and the new school of thought comes into. There are some journalists who are traditional newspapers. They've not metamorphosized into thinking radio and multimedia. We ought to know that we are going with the world. You cannot decide that you are not on TikTok, you are not on Instagram. You do that at your own risk. You want to show a film that cuts across. So the social media platforms are important. If you want to stay at one place, your audience would keep dwindling. So it's a chicken and egg issue. We, the teachers, ought to be dynamic. We must welcome where the youth are looking. And at the same time, try to push in the real sense or the real essence of what we do in the young ones coming. Thank you very much.
Just to follow up on that, what role does technology play in how you gather and how you investigate?
Technology is key in the work I do. Very, very important. How do you move a video file from a country that is watching every move you make immediately, within few minutes? How do you move it out? Today, technology is such that when I'm filming with a hidden camera, there's someone also getting live feed of what I'm filming. So assuming you have arrested me here filming you, and you took the camera, you've taken nothing. The video is already somewhere. So we keep looking at, again, you want to wear a hidden camera and enter an office, and nobody will detect. Somebody has put a device that he thinks can detect a hidden camera. We are also smart enough to get devices that will neutralize your device so that you don't know that I'm having a hidden camera. So it's a thinking process every single time. We liaise with software developers, we talk to them, some of them call me when they have new products. And that is how you bridge the gap between the youthful people. Because technology is everything. What is the role of AI in journalism today? Is there even a need for anybody to write a story when there is AI? You understand? So technology is one of the most important components of journalism today. And anybody who underestimates technology does this at his or her own peril. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions in the room? Okay, I'll take one more here and then I think we'll wrap.
So for Stephanie, if she can tell us more about the famous proof of life that led to the liberation of the young schoolgirls that were kidnapped by Boko Haram. I feel that was something very investigative too, and that somehow needed to grow around corruption gates.
It's a great question. Thank you for asking. And so it's what they describe as good old-fashioned shoe leather journalism. in 2014, I was with a team of CNN journalists who were sent to Nigeria to cover the kidnapping of the schoolgirls. But interestingly, at the same time, Nigeria was hosting the World Economic Forum for the first time. And the government thought this was a huge deal. It was a huge deal. But at the same time, 276 schoolgirls had been kidnapped from school. But they didn't seem to think it was as much as a big deal as this economic forum. And so we went there to cover the forum, but we knew we were not covering the forum. We're covering the story of the missing girls. And they were very annoyed with us. That CNN, why are you here just to spread propaganda about Nigeria? Those girls were not kidnapped. It's fake. You know, I did a TED talk about this because people thought that the schoolgirl kidnapping was fake. But we met parents, we met community leaders, we met people who were telling us that their daughters were missing and the government was doing nothing about it. We did a story at the time, it got a lot of praise and attention. I think our team won a Peabody Award for it. But what really struck me was that the girls that were saved from that story were girls who jumped off the trucks themselves. Not one girl was rescued by the government. And so that was in 2014. In 2016, 2 years after the kidnapping, I kept in touch with the community leaders. I kept in touch with all of the people that we met. I would always just call them and follow up. Any news about these girls? What's happened? Like, it just total blackout. And nobody seemed to care. The world had moved on after this huge Bring Back Our Girls campaign in 2014. And so it's, for me, I tell my mentees that it's the value of staying on a story. Stay on the story, go back to your contacts, find out what's happening. Because when everybody's moved on, the people are more willing to talk to you because no one else is asking them about it. And that was how I found someone who said to me, look, you know, these girls are still alive. And I was shocked. I thought they'd died or been sold into sex slavery. That's what we were told. He said they're still alive and there's proof of this. The Nigerian government received a proof of live video from Boko Haram, filmed on Christmas Day 2015, asking for ransom. And they've just sat on it. They haven't done anything. I want you to have it because I know that you've stayed on this story and you've cared about this story. And, you know, it was just, I mean, at the same time, it was a lot of luck. Like, the story kind of fell into my lap. But it was luck that I created myself by being in contact with the people involved. And so we kind of investigated the video, made sure it was, you know, not a hoax, etc. And, you know, CNN obviously did a story about it. We flew to Borno State and, you know, kind of talked to the families. We showed them the video. They pointed out their children. One mother said if she could go into the laptop to pull her daughter out, she would. And I'm a mother. I have a 13-year-old, and I was so, still think about that moment, and I'm still so touched. And the events after, I could not have predicted, because as soon as we aired that video, the government sprang into action. And we aired the video in April, and they contacted Boko Haram, and by October 2016, 21 of those girls were freed. And then it kind of set off a chain reaction of more girls being freed. So in the end, I think more than 100 plus girls were freed, but unfortunately, more than 100 of them remain missing, nearly 10 years on. So it's a story that's bittersweet for me. It's a story that's defined my career, essentially. And it's a story I still stay on. I still talk to some of the mothers. I still talk to some of the community leaders. It's a story I quite simply will never forget. And I hope that the world never forgets it, because more than 100 girls are still missing. So that's it. So, any more questions for Anas? well, I mean, what more is there to say beyond thank you so much for your bravery, for your resilience, for your determination, for your passion. It takes passion and extraordinary courage to do what Anas does. So please let us give him a standing ovation as we close up this panel. Thank you.
Like to thank you very much for this very important closing of our conference. And as usually, since this is our last conference of the year, we want to still take 10 minutes from your time to close properly. And I really want to thank you, Stephanie and Anas, for what you are doing. Is really an important work. Thanks for being with us. And now you are free to leave the stage. And I will call here back Mauro. Thank you. Thank you. So, Mauro, we are at the end of this conference, but we still have something to do tomorrow. So I would like to finish with you, and also you can introduce what happens tomorrow, and then we do a proper closing of this year of the conference of the Disruption Network Club.
Yes, because our program actually ends tomorrow. We still have 2 important events, our 2 workshops. Both are sold out actually, which is also why we would like to ask if anyone of you is enrolled that can't make it, to let us know, because we have a very long waiting list for these workshops. The first one starts tomorrow at 11 for 2 hours. It's Think Like a Criminal with Stefan Dojcinovic. And then we have from 𝗖𝗿𝗶𝗺 to 𝗖𝗿𝗆𝗺, how to spot corruption in the international arms trade with Julia Denbrinker, Ruth Rode, and Rona Michi. And
thank you, Mauro. And we prepare also a small surprise for you that Veronica is bringing here on stage. And this is really our thanks and gratitude from the Disruption Network Club for the great work you did with us in these months.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauro.
Thank you.
It's been always so great to work with you.
No, thank you. It's I just want to thank you and the Disruption Network Club and all the team. I know it sounds a very banal sentence, but there is really a lot of work around these 3 days of conference, and we are a very small part of this. There is a huge team that has been working for months, and I would really like to thank all of you that have been working with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauro. Thanks. And now I also want to do a proper closing that will still last a little bit, so I hope you have a bit of patience, because this is a very important moment also for us at the Disruption Lab, and we have a little tradition of each year. First, I want to mention briefly what happens next, and the project that we are still ongoing, running, and that will also happen. One that we really care is our research institute investigating the kill clouds. We started last 11 of September, and is an institute of research that is working on information warfare, autonomous weapon, and AI. And we are working together with 4 fellows that for more than 1 year are developing a research on understanding the implication of AI on the future of war. 2 of them are whistleblowers, Lisa Ling, that is a former technical sergeant in the US Air Force in the drone surveillance program. Then Jax Paulson, that is the executive director of Tech Inquiry. Naomi Colvin, that is the program director at Blueprint for Free Speech. And also Joanna Moll, that is an artist. And at the end of next year, in November 2024, we will then organize a conference that will bring the result of this research. So this is also something that we started from all conference we did in the past on military whistleblowing. And then next year, the great news is that is 10 years of Disruption Network Lab. So for us, it's also really a great anniversary. We have a conference that we are preparing, but at the moment I'm not disclosing yet because it's not entirely confirmed in April. So if you will follow our Telegram channel, you will know more, but now I'm not yet saying. But instead there is another part of the program that is confirmed that I'm happy to introduce, that is called the Coding Agency. And these will consist in 3 conferences that are funded by the Berlin Capital Culture Funds. And so we start with the first conference that will be in June, and the title is Migratory Currents. I will be curating this conference together with Hannah Baumann. And we will speak about the politics of surveillance, of digital inclusion and its subversion, and also the discourse of reimagining the city otherwise and reshaping the city in a way that we also reflect critically on the discourse of distributed technology. And we will also have a stream that is about climate mitigation and migration and social environmental justice that is part of this conference. And specifically, this stream is part of our community program that next year will be curated by Elena Velianovska. And we will do our community program at NGBK. It's a great institution space, also free space in Berlin that is close now to Alexanderplatz. And then I'm not going to go through all the other conferences, but you will get to know through our Telegram channel. And also, if you want to become a member of the Disruption Network Club, you can just do it with €50. You get all the year program. And also, we have a donation campaign that is running. So I don't know if you don't know which kind of Christmas present you can do, you can give it to us. And this will also help a lot our next conferences. And now also is the nice moment of tradition of the Disruption Network Club. And I first want to thank the audience, thanks the speakers, but also the team that I really love, is the team that we work together for doing all the things that you are following. And so I'm very happy to call here on stage Elena Velianovska, that is our senior project manager. Elena, come here. Thank you, Elena, for all the great work you always do. And I'm looking forward to the future. Then we have Veronica Nad, that now has to find somebody else to give her the flower. That is now our finance and administration officer, and also working together with me at the Institute. Great. This is a great exchange, peer-to-peer. And very happy to call here on stage Jonas Franke, our art director and press manager that did all the graphic since the start of the Disruption Lab. Thank you, Jonas. And Sabina Barcucci, our community and program manager. Thank you, Sabina.
And now is where communication comes to 𝗍𝗂 𝗀𝗃𝗺, our digital communication manager. Thank you, 𝗍𝗂. Thank you, run away immediately, okay? And 𝗖𝗿𝗶𝗺𝗿𝗰, our communication assistant. And 𝗨Ｈ𝗱𝗺 𝗔𝗂, our production assistant. 𝗨H𝗱. Thank you all. And then we finished the flowers, but I still want to thank the great team. Ah, there is something else coming. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't expect that. No, makes my life difficult in reading things. But no, thank you so much. Really nice. Okay, well, they have to go on. So then really a big thank to the Boiling Head Media and Ranav Adhikari and his team for the wonderful streaming that he always does, and they do. Thank you, Ranav and all. And Maria Silvano, our photographer. Thank you, Maria. Paolo Combes for the sounds. Thank you, Paolo. Francesco Mancori for the technical support and the lights. And also, I want to thank Torsten Utken that does also the setup, the technical support at the start, and also all the interns, the helpers, and the cash desk help that we had in all these days. Really, thank you all. And finally, thanks to all the audience and the speakers. I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow for the workshop, and thanks for the people that will run the workshop tomorrow. Thank you, and goodbye to all.